you know Napoleon? Napoleon Bonaparte. Why was he so successful? What made him a great military leader? And so if you look at Napoleon, okay, he conquered, he won a lot of battles, he was a great military leader, even against great odds, right? When he had small forces, he conquered larger armies. And so when Napoleon was finally defeated, a lot of countries went and studied Napoleon and why he was successful. And I think the Prussians, did the most research on Napoleon, on why he was so successful. And kind of my takeaway from studying Napoleon, what made him successful was this concept called mission command. Mission command. Do you know what mission command is? I'll look at the military or the uniform wearing people. What is mission command? That's okay, it's tough. I'd encourage you to write that down, mission command, and then go back and Google it and read about it on the internet. Mission command is the way a commander exercises authority through something called mission command. So it's the exercise of authority and direction by the commander using mission orders. Right? So Napoleon, as a commander, would write an order. Right? I don't think they had email back then, or smartphones, or typewriters. Right? So he would give an order. He would pass his commander's intent. That's important. Study about that. Commander's intent to his subordinate captains and lieutenants, and they would execute his intent. Now, just because you're civilians, this applies to you as well. Okay, so here at DLI we have mostly civilians, and we have a few uniform wearers. I treat them all equally. I don't see uniforms, I don't see civilians, I just see employees of DLI, right? Family, Air Force family. So Napoleon was very successful because he would clearly communicate his intent, his objective to his subordinates, and then he would give them the freedom and flexibility to execute it. Okay, let's talk about that for a while. I don't know what it's like in your countries and how that works, but in the United States we call that centralized control and decentralized execution. Same concept, right? So the higher ups, the generals, the departmental level people in charge will give their intent. It trickles down to the echelon lower than that level, and that keeps on passing down to lower echelons. And so the thing about Napoleon, and then we'll move on to something else, he knew that his captains and lieutenants would make mistakes in executing his intent. And that was okay, because that's how they learned. Trial and error. And he was very, he empowered his captains and lieutenants to do what they saw fit to execute his intent. All right, does that make sense? Okay. So obviously I'm not an Army guy, I'm Air Force. So I've never commanded ground troops or even air troops. But I would encourage you to go study Napoleon in this thing called Mission Command, because it applies no matter where you are. It applies if you're managers. It applies if you're combat troops and combat commanders. I think it applies in the civilian world. If you're working at Google or Microsoft or Apple or Toyota, I don't know, or here in the military, okay, Mission Command. So clearly communicate your intent, even though you may not be commanders, you're managers. Communicate your intent, your desire, your end state, and then let your subordinates surprise you with innovation. Let them execute how they see fit. Okay? Make sense? Below me, I have flights. That's how an Air Force squadron is organized. My flight chief for instruction is Mr. Michael Sheridan. So my commander's intent for Mr. Michael Sheridan, who's over instruction and all the instructors, he's over your instructors. My intent was to him, I said, Michael, I want you to create a better English language instructor who can teach in a military context. I didn't tell him how to do it or when. I just said, here's what we need to do, okay? DLI stands for the Defense Language Institute. How do we put the D, the defense, in the Defense Language Institute? So how can we help our instructors who are not military, most of them do not have military experience, how can we get them to understand military concepts and apply military jargon in the classroom? So he went out, and this past, June, we have in-service training. And then as a flight chief, he turned around. So that's an example of me empowering Michael to go execute how he sees fit. I'm trying to be like Napoleon, right? So Michael, flight chief, he turns around, and the way I understand it, he had some GS-11 instructors and I think some GS-12 supervisors organized this in-service training and put together, they ran it all under his guidance and direction, right? He gave some guidance, but they put it together. They organized all the briefings, the trainings. Michael came up with 3 objectives. It was, how do you teach in a military context? How do you increase the quality of instruction? And how do you incorporate technology in your instruction? Were his 3 objectives. So that's fine. He took my intent and he kind of made it a little more specific. And then he gave those objectives to some subordinates and let them go and execute it. Okay, so I think that is an example of empowerment and commander's intent. Here's what I need from my instruction flight, kind of high level commander's intent, and then I empower subordinates to go execute. Are they going to make mistakes? I don't know, probably. But guess what? They're going to learn, right? So this training festival they just put on, they probably did a hot wash, an after action report. What went well? What could we do better? They're going to incorporate that feedback into February's training. They'll probably do a hot wash from that, and it'll just get better and better and better and better. Okay? So this concept of mission command, empowering your captains and lieutenants, I think is one of the reasons, I'm not a military expert, or I don't consider myself a military expert. I think that's why Napoleon was so successful.
How do you follow up to make sure that your intent, more or less, is being followed?
Excellent, excellent. Okay, so we have regular touch points. So I meet regularly with Michael Sheridan. We have a good working relationship, and weekly he gives updates on where he is. And that allows, so there's feedback, right? I give an order or intent, and then he goes and thinks about it, comes up with some ideas, he comes back for a vector check, right? Hey boss, I'm thinking of this. I say, sounds good, press, or I'm not sure, let's course correct, let's head a little this way. Okay, so there's a back and forth. And so it's important to get two-way communication up and down the chain. So that's a great question. How do you know that they're on track? You just got to have regular communication. That's done through, staff meetings. Unfortunately, I don't like meetings, or he can shoot me an email, or periodically I get an update. And then as he gets closer and he starts creating products, he'll show me some draft products. We'll review them, right? So we don't wait till February, and then for the first time I'm seeing it as we're executing the training festival. It's a series of events leading up to it. I would encourage you to reflect, to ponder your leadership style and your leadership skills. Do you read books about leadership? Do you read books about leaders from your country or other countries? So this is important because being managers, it's all about relationships, and people are different. People have different opinions. What do you do when you have a conflicting opinion with one of your subordinates? If you don't agree with them or they don't agree with you, are you iron-fisted and just say, hey, I'm the boss, do it my way? Or do you listen to them? Right? I believe innovation happens from the bottom up. I don't do what your instructors do on a day-to-day basis, so I don't know how to innovate for them and make things better. But they do, because they do it every day. And they're the ones saying, why do we do this? This is dumb, this makes no sense. Okay, let me give you, just on this thing called leadership, here's one concept I think of on leadership. So imagine a spectrum of leadership. On one end, you have what I would call, let's call this end of the spectrum, a chess player leader. What does a chess player do?
Think a lot.
Think a lot?
Calculate.
Calculate?
Design
And,
Strategies?
Makes decisions.
Makes decisions?
Analyzes.
Analyzes? Okay? Good, I never thought of that way. That's, you guys are smart, I didn't. Chess player, yeah, they think,
Win the game.
they make decisions. Who helps the chess player make decisions?
Experience.
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 His opponent.
Himself.
Himself, right? So a chess player has his pieces right here. He dictates every move, when the move happens, where the pieces go. No one else is telling him. There's no feedback, there's no communication. Chess player. Okay, so that's one end of the spectrum. On this end of the spectrum, you have let's say a gardener. How many of you have gardens back home? Flower garden, vegetable garden? No?
In summer cottage.
Summer cottage, you gotcha? Yeah. Okay. What does a gardener do to make sure the plants grow? Or they're fruitful and they produce vegetables or fruits or whatever kind of garden you have. If you have an orchard,
Water.
Water.
water,
Manure,
else?
whatever.
minerals, prune. Yep, what else?
Mow the lawn.
Weed.
Mobile weed, fertilizer. Till, you till the ground and make it soft. So that's what I call gardener leadership. So what am I getting at? What does a gardener do?
Care.
Nurture.
Care. That's a good one. They care. What else?
Grow.
They grow.
Grow new leaders.
Grow leaders. Interesting. Grow leaders.
Leaders from his subordinates.
That's an interesting point. My whole Air Force career, I've been told I need to grow myself out of a job or work myself out of a job. And what does that mean? That means I'm developing the people below me. I want them to develop and grow and improve so that one day they can do what I'm doing. Okay, what else about a gardener? What else is it about a garden? Think about the environment, right? A gardener creates an environment in which the plants can thrive. So as a commander, I am responsible for the morale and good order and discipline of the unit. So if there is low morale, I need to understand why, and I need to fix it, because my plants can't thrive, they can't grow, they can't produce fruit and vegetables. What else about a gardener? Okay, so there's a spectrum, right? Gardenership or gardener leadership, chess player leadership. Which one's better? Which one's better?
There's no better leadership in that case.
Yeah, it depends, right? It depends. There's going to be times in your career where you need to apply chess player leadership and you just need to tell people, I just need you to go charge the hill. I need you to charge that hill and take out that machine gun nest. That's chess player leadership. I just need you to do what I'm telling you to do. There's times for that. There's certain personalities for that. There are times and places for gardener leadership. Hey, Michael Sheridan, here's my intent. I need you to go and do this. or you need to create an environment where you can grow. Where on this spectrum do you think Napoleon was? I don't know which one he was. I don't know. I haven't thought that far yet. I haven't thought that critically. I don't know. He was probably a little of both, depending on the situation, right? So, okay. So I would encourage you to reflect upon your leadership style and attributes and characteristics. Develop them. How many of you have been in leadership positions before? Okay. So you have a little bit of experience leading people. I think it's a lifelong effort and endeavor. We should constantly be thinking about leadership and where we can improve. So just like our instructors, we don't let them get stagnant. You know, their supervisors go in and evaluate them just to point out different techniques and stuff so they don't get, what's the word, fossilized in a certain teaching style. Just help them remember there's different styles. We as leaders should do the same thing. We should constantly read about leadership, leaders who have succeeded and failed, and why they succeeded and failed. And talking to people, you can't lead from behind your desk. A leader cannot lead from his or her office or desk. You got to get out, you got to connect with people. And this might be very American of me, I don't know. I've never been in a foreign military, but good leadership in the US military, the leaders connect with the people. And so in my squadron, we're almost 350 people. That's big for a squadron. That's almost, yeah, it's very big. And so when I first got here, I intentionally tried to walk around to meet people, to get to know who they are, right? To see their faces, to learn their names, to understand what they do. And I found that you learn a lot by walking around. And so when my flight chiefs came to me and they would tell me things, I'd say, yeah, I already know. How do you know that? Well, I was out walking around and I kind of got a pulse of the force, and I kind of know what's going on, and I've heard things, and you learn what's going on. So you're right, I haven't been out as much lately because I'm just so swamped and crushed. But what allows me to go out and walk around, I wish I had a whiteboard, but if you think of an organizational chart, right, so this is you, the leader, the manager on the org chart. Below you are your subordinates, right? So for me, squadron commander, and then a line down, and then below me, I have flights, which are flight chiefs. It's very beneficial if you, as a leader, have a staff, right? So you like your secretary, your executive officer, your superintendent, your first sergeant, your commander's action group, I don't know what you call them in your military. They do the staff work, the paperwork, hey, time cards need to be approved, leave needs to be approved, administration, right, the paperwork, to free up you as the leader so that you can walk out and talk to your subordinates and talk to your people. What you don't want to do is get burdened where you're stuck behind a desk all day, feeling the urgent need to approve paperwork or write papers or respond to email. Turn that stuff off. Give it to your staff or delegate it or push down so that you can walk amongst the troops and figure out what's going on. Does that make sense? Let me give you this analogy. Imagine a ship. Anybody in the Navy? Any Navy folks? Navy, okay. A ship or a boat. Is it a boat or ship? A ship. I never knew. Okay. I know the Navy gets very sensitive when you call a boat a ship and a ship a boat. I don't know the difference, but.
Aircraft carrier.
Okay, so imagine a big ship. You are the captain of the ship. And what does the captain of the ship do? What is the captain responsible for? They're responsible for kind of the safety and well-being of the ship. And so I imagine, you know, have you seen Pirates of the Caribbean? Right, so you're up there and you got the big, what's it called? You're at the helm and you're kind of steering the direction of the ship, but you've got that long telescope, you're looking, spyglass, yeah. What does the captain do? He's looking out on the horizon beyond what's in front of you. And yeah, the captain is aware, the captain can look down and see there's a rock over here or an alligator over there, and he may be aware of what's going on, but the captain has a crew to take care of all that. The crew is responsible for tying down the cargo, cooking the meals, swabbing the deck, putting up the sail, putting the sail down, stitching up the holes in the sail. Okay, the captain is aware of stuff going on, and he's got his first mate to kind of take care of all that. But mostly, the captain's responsible for scanning the horizon for long-term threats or opportunities. And you can't do that as a leader if you're bogged down by, hey captain, what knot should I use to tie down the cargo? Or, hey captain, we've got a tear in the sail. What do you want us to do about that? Right? If you are bogged down or weighed down with those things, you won't be very effective as a leader. So you need a good staff to just take care of that stuff for you, and just to elevate things as needed, or let you know, hey captain, there was a tear in the sail, we sewed it up, we're good to go. Hey captain, all the cargo's tied down, we're ready to go. Right, does that make sense?
Yeah.
If you as a leader are constantly bogged down by the minutia, you will not be effective as a leader. So maybe I'm not being very effective right now because I'm not getting out there walking around.
How did you learn that, to delegate?
Necessity. If I don't delegate, I get nothing done. There is no way in a squadron with 350 people I can do everything by myself. So I have to delegate and push down certain things. I have to prioritize what's most important. I have to do the things that only a commander can do. Right? Does that make sense? So if a flight chief can do something, I'll give it to the flight chief. If my director of operations can do something, I'll let them do it. If it's something only I can do, then I do things only a commander can do, or a leader can do. In order for you to be effective as a leader, to delegate, and to have your staff do all that stuff, you need good staff. You need good staff. And so part of being a leader is talent management. You have to be good at identifying. Every person's unique. There's no two people in the world are similar. Personality, opinions, skills, knowledge, abilities. And so you need to be able to look at your staff and understand their strengths and weaknesses and put them where they can best serve the organization. Right? If you have someone that's very analytical, very technical, and loves to sit behind a computer, they probably wouldn't be a good supervisor or leader, right? Dealing with people, maybe, probably not. You need people in positions where their strengths will be to the organization's benefit. Does that make sense? And so sometimes that might require some adjustments and some reorganization and some personnel moves and stuff, and that's okay. Change is okay. I personally don't like change, but sometimes you need to change things to make it run better. We think of success and failure as absolutes. You're either a complete success or you're a complete failure. And that is bogus. That's horse manure. Don't think like that. It's not true. You may be better at some things than other things, but you're not an absolute success or failure. And so when you delegate to someone and they try their very best and it's not to your liking, did they completely fail or succeed? Well, maybe not. And so if we don't give people opportunities to lead or to try things out, then we're never going to grow our people, right? A gardener. If you're a gardener, you're trying to grow your people below you. They're in the US military or your military. That 4-star general was once a second lieutenant. Or that 4-star general was once an enlisted airman or soldier or private. And how many mistakes did that 4-star general make to get where he or she is today? Do you think that a 4-star general has never made any mistakes in their life? I guarantee you not. Our current Chief of Staff of the Air Force, General Goldfein, I'm reading one of his books, and his book is called Share Success and Own Failure. As a leader, you share success with your subordinates, but if you fail, you own it, right? So if my squadron fails, it's on me. It's on me. The thing I noticed with Napoleon is that out of the lots of military documents that are produced in any military at almost any time in history, effective commanders such as Napoleon focused most of their attention on commander's intent and making sure that was very clear, making sure it was very clearly communicated to subordinates, and then, as we discussed, to make sure those subordinates stay on track, you keep close coordination with them and you get that feedback. So you issue an order, you make sure the order was clearly communicated and clearly received, and then you have periodic feedback sessions on, update me on where you are with this order. One example was in the American Civil War, the president at that time gave an order to a general to drive deep into the South to disrupt the South's will to fight. And then part of that order was, tell me what your plan is going to be to carry out my order. And so you let the subordinate go and think about it and create a plan and then present you the plan. And that is your opportunity to course correct. And then you have periodic situational reports updating you on the plan. So in the US military, when we deploy forces, we have daily or weekly situational reports coming back detailing what happened and where they are back to the commander, and then the commander can course correct as needed. Three priorities. One, people. Take care of people, because people are the ones who execute the mission, right? If I didn't have a squadron of 350 people, this mission would not get done. If we didn't have the instructor sitting right here, the English language mission would not get done. So we need to make sure we're taking care of our people. Okay, so people, number one. Number two, mission. Mission is why we're here. We're here to execute the mission. If nothing helps us execute or enhance the mission, we probably shouldn't do it, right? If someone comes to me and says, hey, Colonel Carter, I have a great idea. Let's build a NASCAR racetrack out here in the field. I'd say, that's a great idea, but how does it help us accomplish the mission? It doesn't. Let's just shelve that idea for a while. Okay, so people, mission, and then my third priority is respect for all. As part of the environment, the gardener creating an environment for the plants to flourish, we need to respect one another. And so people have different opinions how things should be done. There's more than one way to accomplish a task, and we can respectfully disagree with one another in trying to accomplish a task, and that's fine, but we will respect each other, right? So I expect professional behavior from everyone in the squadron. Those were my three commander's priorities. So that's kind of my leadership style. And then kind of also in that same briefing, my second slide was kind of the boundaries that I give everyone in my squadron to operate within. And those are do what is right, do what is necessary, everything else is negotiable. Do what is right, do what is necessary, everything else is negotiable. And then basically all that is saying is, if someone outside my squadron points the finger at one of my squadron members, and I call that person into my office, and I said, hey, what were you thinking? Sir, I was just doing what I thought was right, I was doing what I thought was necessary, or, I cleared it with my boss. Okay, good, I got this, I got your back. My advice to you is to read. It's it's less important what you read, it's more important that you read. So just start reading. There's a ton of books that I've read. One of them that stands out to me is General Colin Powell. He is a retired Army 4-star who is the Joint Chief of Staff, the President's direct military advisor, and he goes through his whole career and leadership lessons that he learned. One book that I'm reading now is by General Goldfein, and that's the Share Success, Own Failure book. He's our current Chief of Staff of the Air Force, and he talks about his experiences as a squadron commander and the mistakes that he made and the lessons that he learned. Yeah, just any book about anyone in a leadership role. Even learning about battles in general, just how they executed certain aspects of the war. So I would just encourage you to read.